Greetings, humanity! Today is Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Let's GROK the news. I'm Robert Gardner, using GROK once again, the most truthful AI in the world, this day and every weekday, to help me search out and to summarize the biggest headlines in the news today. You also get the unparalleled benefit of this observer's editorial opinion. We briefly review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world, but first, and mostly, in yet another special report, a deep dive into the conflict in Iran. Right after this. M.S. Gardner, my wife, is author of last year's Moon Meridian Prize winner from April Gloaming Publishing, Wolfsbane. It's a dark, serious, modern take on an old fairy tale. You've never heard Little Red Riding Hood told like this. It's a page-turning Southern Gothic story for adults. Wolfsbane, available now at thecuriousauthor.com. All one word, thecuriousauthor.com. Also available on Amazon. And now, let's GROK the most important news in the world today, starting with our lead story, Dateline Washington, D.C., Tehran, and Doha. The U.S.-Israel war with Iran has entered its third week now, with no signs of de-escalation, as major Israeli strikes hammered Iran's central South Pars gas field, the world's largest natural gas reserve, triggering fierce Iranian retaliation that targeted key energy facilities in Qatar and Saudi Arabia with missiles and drones. Fires erupted at Qatar's Ras Laffan gas hub and Saudi installations, causing significant damage and forcing partial shutdowns that have sent global natural gas prices soaring nearly 25% in just one day, with analysts warning that oil could approach $200 a barrel if the Strait of Hormuz comes under sustained threat. European and Indian industries heavily reliant on Gulf supplies are already bracing for another energy crisis reminiscent of past Gulf disruptions, while U.S. drivers are facing pump prices at their highest levels since 2023. The prices go up despite minimal direct imports to the U.S. through the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. intelligence officials described Iran's regime as degraded, but still intact, with its leadership structure battered by targeted killings, including high-profile figures such as former Parliament Speaker Ali Larijani and Intelligence Minister Ismail Khatib. Civilian casualties in the region continue to mount. More than 900 reported dead in Lebanon from intensified Israeli operations, shrapnel deaths in Israel from incoming Iranian missiles, and 3 Palestinian women killed by debris in the West Bank. Hezbollah losses in southern Lebanon exceeded 20 fighters in the past 24 hours, as Israeli forces struck Iranian assets as far afield as the Caspian Sea. In Washington, President Trump attended the dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base for 6 U.S. service members killed in an Iraq crash tied to broader regional tensions. He publicly called for Israel to halt attacks on South Pars, claiming he was unaware of certain strike plans and attempting to distance the U.S. from the specific targeting of civilian-linked energy infrastructure. Trump is looking forward to a day when that energy infrastructure can be putting money into the economy of a free Iran. At the same time, Trump criticized NATO allies for rebuffing his push to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, while the Pentagon weighs sending thousands more troops to the region amid reports of U.S. and allied radar sites struck at least 10 times. Domestic fallout intensified. Director of National Security Tulsi Gabbard faced sharp questioning during congressional testimony avoiding direct answers on whether Iran posed an imminent threat before the conflict erupted. This observer thinks it depends on what you mean by imminent. Former counterterrorism advisor Joe Kent, who resigned, citing that there was no such threat and alleging that Israel drove the escalation, is himself now under FBI investigation for alleged leaks of classified information predating his departure. Iranian forces issued evacuation warnings for energy assets in neighboring Gulf states, while Saudi Arabia reserved the right to military action if attacks continue. Humanitarian conditions deteriorate rapidly, and aid workers warn of worsening disease outbreaks and environmental hazards across the region, amid fears that the conflict could leave Iran's regime weakened but dangerously unpredictable. Well, I think we can predict exactly how they would behave, like they always have. The war's economic ripples are already global, with shipping hesitancy in the Strait of Hormuz, helium shortages hitting the semiconductor industry, and central banks recalibrating policy in response to inflation pressures. The U.S. Federal Reserve held interest rates steady in its first decision since the Iran conflict began, citing heightened inflation uncertainty. Gas prices in the U.S., U.K., and Europe have surged to multi-year highs due to disrupted energy supplies. They haven't been this high since Joe Biden was president. Well, it may be another 3 weeks of action, folks, if Trump's initial predictions hold for the length of the war being 4 to 6 weeks. Hang on. Now, we grok the headlines from around the world. Dateline, Washington, D.C. Senate confirmation hearings for Trump's DHS nominee, Markwayne Mullin, turned heated as Democrats pivoted to debates on Homeland Security shutdown risks, the 2020 election, and ICE policies. Senator Rand Paul confronted Mullin over past assault-related remarks, prompting an expression of regret. Dateline, Washington, D.C. and Kinshasa. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have reached an agreement to de-escalate their border tensions following U.S.-mediated talks aimed at preventing further conflict in the African Great Lakes region. Dateline, Quito. Ecuadorian authorities arrested a notorious gang leader long sought for orchestrating the murder of a presidential candidate, marking a significant blow to organized crime and narco-terrorist networks in the country. And in case you didn't notice, America is down there helping them out. Dateline, Jakarta. Indonesian military police detained 4 soldiers accused of carrying out an acid attack on a prominent activist there. Public calls are growing for a transparent, open trial to ensure accountability. Dateline, England. The United Kingdom opened the world's longest coastal path, stretching 2,689 miles along its shores, offering hikers an unprecedented route through diverse landscapes and boosting domestic tourism. You know, this observer is almost ashamed for immediately thinking that a footpath around the shores of the UK will be of great service to all the illegal savages invading the beaches. Dateline, Helsinki. Finnish supermarkets have emerged as a key element of the country's civil defense strategy, serving as critical distribution hubs and resilience points in times of crisis or conflict. I guess they're getting ready in case things with Russia heat up even more. Dateline, New Delhi. India's young population is more educated than ever before, yet millions face persistent joblessness, raising concerns over economic inequality and wasted human potential. This observer thinks the cheap foreign call centers are about to be put out of business by even cheaper robot call centers. Their problems, like ours, may just be beginning in the economic future for the next generation. Havana, Cuba. Well, the island nation is grappling with chronic power outages now and a deepening humanitarian crisis exacerbated by energy shortages, leaving residents struggling to maintain basic services and daily life. The Trump administration is ready for Secretary of State Marco Rubio to step in and help Cuba reorganize with a friendly and capitalist government, as soon as the island nation is ready to admit another failed experiment in socialism. That keeps the number of failed socialist regimes at 100%. Dateline Doha. Afghan evacuees stranded in a Qatari camp have accused the United States of betrayal, claiming broken promises of resettlement and support years after the Kabul withdrawal. This observer thinks that verified promises should be kept. He also thinks the Taliban should have been wiped out back when Bush invaded and let the Taliban and Osama bin Laden escape. Dateline, the United States Labor leader Dolores Huerta has publicly accused famed civil rights icon Cesar Chavez of sexual abuse, urging a reevaluation of his legacy amid the allegations. Dateline Chicago. Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton has won the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate seat, positioning her as a strong contender in the general election. And Dateline Caracas and Miami. Venezuela's at home and in the diaspora erupted in celebration after their national team delivered a historic upset victory over the United States in the World Baseball Classic Final. If this observer were a good sport, he would congratulate happy Venezuelans. So, congratulations, Venezuela. This has been a pretty good year for you. I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.